Good afternoon. This is Pastor Laura Cavendish, and I serve at St. Paul Lutheran Church in Asheville, Ohio. And we continue together through our Lenten devotion journey, even here on this Maundy, Thursday. Had a volunteer in this morning. We were making sure our bulletins were all in place for tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday morning. And I was the tech assistant. I always am. I just have a knack with copiers at this point in my career. So there we go. So you have waited. Some of you I know have a schedule that allows you to be open anytime. And so here I finally am. I appreciate that you are tuning in, and we will begin our devotion together. And let's remember, we are almost through Marks of the Christian by David L. Miller. It was part of the Book of Faith series that Augsburg Fortress has published. It's still in publication. You are still able to purchase it, but I know a few used copies are floating around out there on Amazon. So if the end of this you're wishing you had a written copy, that's where you may go looking for it. All right. Today is Maundy, Thursday. If you are a person who connects here to St. Paul, we will stream tonight. Our service begins at 7 p.m. If you connect and are close, please try to come and be a part of that gathered community. All right, such a nice opportunity again to be together. This is a breath it's a time to breathe for me in the middle of some very busy days. So I thank you for gathering with me. We are in Romans 12. And as we continue, we're in verse 15. Rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. And here is that reflection. It's a silent space that whispers a grace walls cannot contain. I happened upon it just inside an old church in San Antonio. Stepping in the door, I turned left and found myself in a tiny prayer chapel, lit by candles and what light flows through a west window high above. 100 faces or more gazed at me in the darkness, looking at me from photos pinned to the wall above a rack of candles. Some faces were weary and worn, near the end of their days. Others smiled, aglow with the sweet bloom of youth. Young men and women stood erect in military uniforms. Children smiled from the safety of backyards. Middle-aged faces, too, looked at me, smiles dimmed by the wear of midlife malaise. Each face bore a secret need, and some soul who loves them came here and pinned their fondest hopes and deepest fears to the wall and lit a candle, each flickering wick a silent cry for mercy. And you whispered from every face, Holy One. Bring it all, this is in quotes, bring all you are and all that's in your heart, all you fear, all for which you hope, hold nothing back. And I prayed, first standing, then on my knees, welcomed by the faces, pleading for every need that hung on the wall. You joined with each one in a communion of hope and hunger for the love that heals every wound. For you, my Lord. I rejoiced with those who rejoiced and wept with those who mourned, and even the weeping was joy, for I was joined in one holy communion of saints with every soul whose face gazed at me. And I was a human being, as human as you, my brother, who welcomes all that is human into yourself, embracing it with the love for which no name is enough. We were one, joined in one body of beseeching for final redemption. In shared joy and sorrow, your kingdom was as real as my tears. Colossians 1:15-16 says this: He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For in him all things were created, things visible and invisible. All things have been created through him and for him. And here is a theological thought. And I had looked ahead at this, so listen very carefully. It's from I gotta look back, from Michael W. Blastic, Attentive Compassion, Franciscan Resources for Ministry. And that's from Paulist Press in the year 2000. It appeared in the Handbook of Spirituality for Ministers, Perspectives for the 21st Century, Volume 2. All right. To understand the incarnation as occasioned by human sin and having the primary purpose of atoning for that sin, the perspective of Anselm of Canterbury and the satisfaction theory, that's in quotes. To understand the incarnation as occasioned by human sin and having the primary purpose of atoning for that sin would suggest that the primary purpose of ministry is the overcoming and elimination of sin. To understand the incarnation as bringing creation to completion, which is the perspective of the Franciscan tradition, that would suggest that ministry is primarily about fostering genuine humanness in the pattern of Jesus Christ. And I would suspect this author is very much influenced by that Franciscan tradition as he has worked on spirituality and understanding Jesus' presence and purpose in his life. We're supposed to take silence for meditation, and my voice would love to just have silence. So let's stay here for a moment. Okay, and as we are silent and as we are together, where do you experience true communion with the saints? When have you been moved to be as human as Jesus? Think about that moment when Jesus sees the grief of the people over Lazarus and he weeps. I think that is a space where Jesus exposes God's heart, but also his humanness that's intertwined with that. How does praying with and for others join you with them? Psalm 111:1 says, I will give thanks to the Lord with my whole heart in the company of the upright, in the congregation. And here's for your journal. What experience does the reflection stir? How does deep communion with others change you? Jesus does more than satisfy God's justice and pay a debt. He comes to join all things to himself. How does this affect the way you see his cross and ministry? And here's a prayer for today. I especially think it's helpful as we will gather tonight um, to share in Holy Communion and to share in Jesus' Last Supper with his disciples. Draw all that we are into you, that we may share in one Holy Communion. Amen. All right. It was very nice to be with you. Please take time to write. I need to take time to write in order to get some of my writing going and finished. So we will go from there. All right. Go in peace. May Christ go with you.